Episode number 876, Solutions Focus, A Better Future.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
Oh, I just got back from vacation in Santa Barbara. Had a wonderful time. I was able to have a birthday party at Jack Canfield's house. He just turned 80. And,
oh, wow.
Went there. Yeah, it was amazing to see Jack and all of my friends and friends, many friends of the guests that I'm about to introduce. I did an online training with BNI Canada directors, and I have spent a couple of days with the CEO, the new CEO of BNI, Mary Thompson, who just took over about 6 weeks ago. So keeping busy and staying out there.
Great. So tell us a little bit about this particular podcast.
Well, I am really happy to have on this podcast a longtime friend, Dr. Mark McCurgow. And I have mentioned Mark and one of his books, The Solutions Focus, 9 times. I checked on my podcast 9 times over the last several years. Mark is an author, consultant, speaker, an inimitable blend of scientific rigor and performance pizzazz, which is an interesting combination, but it works. I've seen it. He has pioneered the development of solution-focused change models in business with his book, The Solutions Focus. And he also founded Soul World, I think that's how you pronounce it, SOLW World International, and he edits the Journal of Solutions-Focused Practices. He's worked on every populated continent in the world, just like BNI is on every populated continent. And he developed the host leadership approach, which, by the way, we did a podcast on, podcast number 396, a long time ago. And he'll play the jazz saxophone in the 2024 Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and he is great on the saxophone. Mark, welcome to BNI Podcast.
Hi there, Ivan, and hi, everybody. It's great to be with you. And I'm speaking from Edinburgh, where we've just finished the Edinburgh Festival and the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And both my shows were sellouts, which was fabulous.
So you just did it. Good for you. You are a great musician, and you're a past TLC member. And whenever you come to TLC, they ask you to bring your saxophone so that you can play. And you're truly amazing. I'm in awe of people who can play musical instruments. I can barely play a kazoo.
Well, it's great fun, and it's a great way to connect with people, both other musicians and people who might want to listen or get drawn in by the music. So it's been a very good friend to me over many, many years.
So a lot of people don't know this, and I'm getting off script here, but in my book with Stuart Emery, Who's in Your Room, we talk about resonance and dissonance. And I always think of the thing that you did with Fred Johnson about resonance on hitting the right key or chord. I'm not a musician. I don't know what it was. And then he hummed into it. I don't know if you remember doing that at a TLC event.
Absolutely. Yes, I remember it very well. And it's such a crucial thing because you can be resonating with somebody or something. And then if you change it a little bit, it can become very alarming and uncomfortable and dissonant, as you say. And the difference between those two things is really small. It's one of the curious things about music and musical tones, that you have to be sensitive to it. And it takes 2 to do that. It takes 2 to resonate.
So anyone who's read my book, Who's in Your Room, the idea of resonance and dissonance came from this gentleman who's on our podcast right now, Mark McCurgow. He is the one that gave us the idea. So thank you. But we're here to talk about your new book, Mark, and a book that I have recommended, as I mentioned, 9 times over the last several years, The Solutions Focus. 3rd or 4th edition? 4th edition?
So it's the Solutions Focus. It's the 3rd edition that's just about to appear. in the US and worldwide on the 17th of September this year.
2024. But people can order it in advance. You can do advance orders.
You certainly can on all good
Yeah.
bookshops, as they say.
Yes.
And I was really excited to get the invitation to write the third edition, because the first edition came out, get this, in 2002. 2002. We hardly had the internet then. We didn't have smartphones or anything. So the world has really changed, but solution-focused approaches to building useful change have been going around the world. And I'm so excited to have the chance to revisit all that great stuff, add some new stories, add some new connections, and show how people are using these ideas of solution-focused change around the world.
Well, it's a fantastic book, and I definitely recommend it. Now, with solutions focus, it really talks about building on what you hope for and what's working or what's not working. And we are very accustomed to problem solving, which works well in a stable or fixed setting, but less so where people are centrally involved or where there's conflict. So do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yes, that's right. So we think about problem solving as being a kind of necessary thing. If something's wrong, we have to solve the problem. And of course, sometimes that's true. And if you have a broken automobile or a broken washing machine, then solving the problem is a good thing. But hey, when you shout at your washing machine, it doesn't answer back. Mm-hmm. But when you're working with people, however, each time you say something or do something, things change around slightly. And so how you tackle the thing matters. So here's the thing with solutions focus. It's not at all about asking what's wrong. It starts off by asking, what do you want to have happen here?
Yeah.
And you think those are kind of similar questions, but actually they're really fundamentally different. Because when you ask what's wrong, you get people focusing on all the bad stuff. Whereas if you ask what do you want, then people start to talk about what would be better than what we have now. And there's a curious thing happens. When you ask what would be better than what we have now, it tends to draw people together.
Mm-hmm.
That's my experience. Because you say, look, imagine, a kind of perfect world here. Well, how would we want this to work? And people start talking about that and contributing. And this is so much more valuable than talking about what's wrong, what's broken, what's not working. And that sort of conversation tends to lead to dissatisfaction, punch-ups, people getting angry and stuff. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that in my meeting room or my workshop. I want people to be coming together around what they want. And so it's such a fundamental thing. And it's so tempting to slip back into problem solving sometimes. But this idea about what do you want?
I don't know if I got this exact phrase from you, but I got the concept from you, Mark. And I have been talking about this for many years in BNI. If all you do is focus on the problem, you become an expert at the problem.
That's absolutely right. And you did get that from me.
Yes. I always quote you. And if you focus on the solution, then you can actually come to the solution. And I see that in BNI all the time, where people all they do is focus on the problem, and it becomes the downfall of a chapter.
Yeah.
But when a chapter focuses on, okay, how do we fix this?
And what do we want? How do we want it to be? How do we want to work together? These are the good questions, I think, because that starts to give you something to move towards. Whereas if you start talking about what's wrong here, you're trying to build something to move away from. But hey, if you say we're going to move away from this, but where are we going to go? Yeah. Where are we going to go? So where do we want to go is such a much better question than, we don't like this place. There's something wrong about this. But hey, let's just talk about it anyway. Let's sit around and complain. This does not lead, in my experience, to rapid positive change. Whereas talking about the better future, the future we all want, and then another key piece of it is talking about what's working already that's part of that better future. Because often in times I find that even when things appear to be going wrong, there's a lot that's working. There's a lot of good stuff. And the other piece of this is to keep that good stuff, hold on to that good stuff, build on that good stuff, add to it, amplify it. And so we take those two pieces side by side. What do we want to happen in the future and what's already working in the past and the present? And that then gives us some really interesting things to work with. And I think in the next podcast, we're going to be talking about some of the things you can do to actually turn that interesting sort of source material into action.
So one of the podcasts that I did in the past where I mentioned your content was podcast number 790. And it is the title of that is Why So High? And it was a technique that you taught me about asking people what the problem is, and they give it a score from 1 to 10, and when they're upset, they give a low score. And you taught me to say why so high? You want a low score, and they look at you confused as to, well, that's a low score. Yeah, I know, but why didn't you say it was even lower? And then they start.
That's right. So it's all about if the thing you want to have happen is 10 on the scale, and the absolute absence of any of that is like 1, then where are you now? And people say, about 3. And they think that's a bad answer, but it's a great answer because, hey, it's not a 1 or a 2. So what's making it a 3 already? And this is how to get to this piece of the what's working already stuff.
Exactly. And so I urge everyone, pick up a copy of the 3rd edition of Solutions Focus. It's a great book. Mark was kind enough to put me on the front cover with a quote that I absolutely was ecstatic to do, which was that this book will help deal with the challenges of our times in intelligent and innovative ways. It is, in a sense, and I know we need to wrap up, and I don't know if you know this, Mark, but I quoted you in my latest book, The 29% Solution, and I recommended the Solutions Focus as part of holding the vision and not the obstacles. And that was a key element of the 29%.
That's right. The obstacles will only matter if they arrive, and most obstacles never actually appear. So the thing is moving forward, and we're going to talk about that in the next podcast.
Outstanding. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on BNI Podcast, and we'll have you again next week. Over to you, Priscilla.
Okay, great, Ivan. Thank you so much. That was some wonderful information. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioPrograms.com, and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thanks so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.